Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to News Cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Mukhtar Kasim. A quick reminder, Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times channel 276 and Free TV. President Bola Tinubu is presiding over Federal Executive Council meeting at the State House in Abuja. It is the first meeting of the Council in over 2 months. Before the meeting commenced, the President swore in 2 new Federal Commissioners of the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission. Meanwhile, First Lady Senator Oluremi Tinubu has arrived at Jigawa State in northwest Nigeria for the commissioning of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu Academy, Hadejia, Gurunjuba's Hadejia Road, commissioning of Senator Remi Tinubu Clinic, and the flag off of the food distribution and inspection of the food bank at Gandun Serki PHC in Malawa Maduri local government area. We'll bring to you details later. The Senate has defended the passage of the State Police Bill, saying the constitutional amendment is driven by urgent national security needs rather than political considerations. Following calls by the Nigerian Democratic Congress presidential candidate Peter Obi and the chairman of the People's Redemption Party, PRP, Hakim Baba Ahmed, to delay or reconsider its implementation. Senate leader Bayemi Bamidele said the proposal emerged from extensive constitutional review consultations involving the presidency, Nigeria's Governors Forum, Conference of State of Legislators, and the Nigerian Police Force. He maintained that the legislation reflects a broad national consensus and should not be delayed by political interest ahead of the 2027 general elections. A federal high court in Abuja has cleared the coast for the registration of the All Democratic Alliance (ADA) by ordering the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to generate and subsequently release access code for the party's registration to Chief Akin Rickett-led leadership of the ADA. Justice Peter Lifu, in a judgment, gave INEC 72 hours within which the access code must be released to the pro-tem secretary of the party. Justice Lifu, in the judgment, faulted the electoral body for releasing the access code to one Umar Ardo, who was not a recognized pro-tem secretary of the political association, and subsequently declared the action of INEC as illegal, wrongful, null and void. Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) says it has intensified security preparations for the August 15 governorship elections in Osun State through risk assessment and collaboration with security agencies across all 30 local government areas. Osun Resident Electoral Commissioner Oluwatoyin Babatola disclosed this during a stakeholders meeting in Osogbo, adding that INEC has mapped out about 200 hard-to-reach communities, trained personnel in risk management, and received about 75% of election materials. She said security agencies have assured the Commission of adequate protection before, during, and after the election to guarantee a peaceful and credible polls. The Federal Ministry of Education says it will on July 1st officially launch the Digital National Education Management Information System. The National Project Coordinator, Special Programs Operations and Implementation Unit, Office of the Ministry of Education, Adebayo Onigbajo, disclosed this at a news conference in Abuja. Onigbajo described the initiative as a flagship component of the Nigeria Education Data Infrastructure being implemented under the Nigeria Education Sector Renewed Initiative. In another development, the federal government has pledged to strengthen collaboration with the National Association of Nigerian Students to improve the welfare and protection of Nigerian students studying abroad. The commitment was made during a strategic engagement between officials of the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a high-powered delegation of nuns led by the association's Director of Diaspora and International Student Affairs, Daniel Oyiniyi. Speaking during the engagement, Oyiniyi expressed concern over what he described as the disconnect between the ministry and Nigerian students in the diaspora, saying many students abroad have been left without adequate institutional support. The United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, the Nigerian government, and other strategic stakeholders have intensified efforts to develop a long-term framework aimed at improving the well-being of Nigerian children by 2050. The commitment was reaffirmed in Abuja during the Child Foresight Analysis Roadmap Validation Exercise, a key engagement under the Anticipatory Governance and Foresight Capacity Program coordinated by the Office of the Vice President in collaboration with the Office for Strategic Preparedness and Resilience with technical support by UNICEF. Speaking at the event, UNICEF Nigeria's Chief of Planning and Monitoring, Wayne Bakhill, explained that the program was initiated following a request from the federal government for technical assistance in strengthening anticipatory governance and long-term planning. The federal government has confirmed that another evacuation flight bringing Nigerians home from South Africa will arrive in Lagos on Tuesday, as efforts continue to ensure the safety of citizens amidst concerns over possible xenophobic attacks. The spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Kemi Ibenfa, said an Air Peace aircraft departed Nigeria and returned with another batch of evacuated Nigerians on Tuesday morning. The development comes ahead of planned anti-immigrant protest expected to begin on June 30, with the government continuing its voluntary evacuation program for Nigerians who have indicated interest in returning home. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) has revealed that the federal government is working to remove the options of fine for convicted drug traffickers, a move aimed at strengthening penalties and closing legal loopholes that allow offenders to avoid lengthy prison sentences. Speaking on a national television program, NDLEA spokesperson Femi Babafemi said the proposed amendment to the NDLEA Act is being championed through the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation and the Minister of Justice and will soon be forwarded to the National Assembly. According to him, the amendment seeks to abolish the fine options currently available to convicted drug traffickers and replace it with mandatory prison terms ranging from 15 to 25 years. Former National Chairman of the All Progressives Congress (APC), Dr. Abdullahi Umar Ganduje, has condoled the party's National Secretary Surajuddin Ajibola Basiru over the death of his mother, Alhaja Sidikat Basiru, who passed away at the age of 92. A statement signed by Ganduje described the late matriarch as a woman of faith, compassion, and exemplary character whose life was dedicated to the Allah, her family, and humanity. He said an enduring legacy of discipline, wisdom, and strong moral values is reflected in the achievement and service of her children. The former APC National Chairman urged Senator Basiru and to take solace in prayed that the Almighty Allah forgives her shortcoming, grant her Jannatul Firdaus, and the family the strength to bear the irreparable loss. You're watching the live broadcast of News Cycle. Cycle continues after this weather forecast, plus foreign and sports stories on the other side of this break. Please stay with us.
Thank you for joining us. Weather conditions continue to vary across the country. We've had reports of continuous rains in parts of the southern region, and going into Tuesday, rainstorm is expected to be more widespread across the southern parts of the country. Communities across the southeast and the south-south should expect rains, while Ogun, Edo, parts of Lagos and the coastal cities will experience persistent rainfall. It is important to note that continuous rainfall is forecast across many coastal communities over the next 3 days. As soils become more saturated and drainage systems come under pressure, the risks of flash flooding increase significantly. The general public are encouraged to remain on alert, while residents in flash-prone areas should monitor weather updates closely, clear drainage channels where possible. Other cities to expect afternoon thunderstorms include the north central, including the entire northern part of the country. And that's your weather outlook for Tuesday. Stay informed and join us again for the latest weather updates. I am Akami Samarda.
You're welcome back from that break. And now to business news, where the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Senator Heineken Lububri, has directed petroleum marketers to immediately reduce the pump price of premium motor spirit and other petroleum products to reflect the recent decline in global oil prices. Lububri issued the directive in Abuja at the 2026 Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority General Council and Legal Advisors Forum themed Beyond Compliance, Certainty and Investment Confidence in Nigeria Petroleum Sector. He said that with the de-escalation of tensions between the United States and Iran, petroleum products prices were expected to adjust downward accordingly, but expressed concerns that this expected reduction had yet to be reflected at the pump. The federal government has begun preparations for its first Eurobond issuance since November 2025, inviting banks and professional advisors to express interest in supporting a potential international debt sale. According to a circular issued by the Debt Management Office, the federal government is seeking to appoint transactions advisors through an open competitive bidding process. The move signals Nigeria's return to the international capital market after its last Eurobond issuance attracted demands worth more than 5 times the amount offered. The National Revenue Service has reaffirmed its commitment to strengthening voluntary tax compliance 1 year after the implementation of Nigeria's landmark tax reforms, saying the taxpayers' education remains critical to building a sustainable revenue system. According to a statement, the nationwide campaign featured activities aimed at promoting taxpayers' education, encouraging voluntary compliance, and deepening public understanding of Nigeria's tax laws. The Revenue Agency made the commitment alongside the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria during the maiden edition of the 2026 National Tax Awareness Day, held to assess progress since the reforms were signed into law by President Bola Tinubu in 2025. On the foreign scene, the European Union has imposed new visa sanctions on Somali nationals over what it describes as inadequate cooperation from Mogadishu in accepting the return of irregular migrants deported from Europe. Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud rejected the EU's criticism, insisting his government is willing to receive all Somali nationals, but argued that some asylum seekers falsely claim Somali nationality. Under the new measures, Somali citizens will no longer qualify for multiple entry visas, while visa processing times will increase to 45 days. Diplomatic passport holders will also lose fee exemptions and simplified application procedures. Still on the international scene, Kuwait has introduced new labor regulations allowing foreign workers to change employers before completing 1 year of service under specific circumstances, a move aimed at strengthening worker protection and holding employers more accountable for labor compliance. The revised rules permit expatriate employees to transfer to a new employer if their current employer fails to meet key legal obligations, including the payment of salaries, processing of work and residency permits, or engages in conduct that justifies contract termination without notice. The policy marks a significant departure from the country's previous labor framework, under which most foreign workers were required to remain with the same employer for at least 1 year before becoming eligible to switch jobs, even when disputes arose. The front runner to become Britain's next Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, has unveiled an ambitious plan to decentralize power across the United Kingdom if he succeeds Keir Starmer. Burnham says his administration would shift decision-making away from Whitehall and give greater authority to regional governments to drive economic growth and development. The report. Andy Burnham made the pledge during a keynote address in Manchester, where he promised what he described as the biggest rebalancing of power in British history. The Labour leadership front-runner said the country's highly centralised system has slowed development and argued that local communities should have greater control of decisions affecting their economies and public service.
Let me state my clear intention as I put myself forward. True to the motto of this city, I am going to do things differently. I am going to break with the more of the same approach that has got us here. I am going to give Britain the circuit breaker it needs. By building a more collaborative politics in Westminster, by taking power out of the centre and putting it in the hands of the people and places who can use it best.
Burnham also proposed creating what he called Number 10 North, a Manchester-based extension of the Prime Minister's office that would coordinate regional devolution, economic growth and degeneration across England, while extending greater power to Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland.
We will create a more streamlined state with a clearer purpose, to power up all parts of the country and put a laser-like focus on growth and regeneration, good growth. The change will be driven through the Prime Minister's office in an extended operation based here in Manchester.
Burnham's speech comes days after Prime Minister Keir Starmer announced his resignation. If elected unopposed as Labour leader, Burnham could assume office as British next Prime Minister as early as mid-July, inheriting an economy facing sluggish growth, rising inflation and increasing pressure to deliver on Labour's promise of national renewal. And now talking sport. The nationwide League One has issued queries to centre referees Adinlayo Ayomide and match commissioner Mohamed Latif for allegedly breaching confidentiality after the one-leg playoff between Yewa Football Academy and FC Ebedie in Akure. The NLO said the two officials may face disciplinary action for unauthorized disclosure of official match report. The league's Secretariat received a formal complaint from Yewa Football Academy, Mojid Ibrahim, claiming access to the report. Meanwhile, Nigeria's world record holder Toby Amuson has won the women's 100 meters hurdles at the Paris Diamond League after equaling her season's best time of 12.28 seconds. The victory saw her finish ahead of Americans Grace Dark and Alicia Johnson and marks her second Diamond League triumph of the season after her earlier success in Rabat. The 28-year-old continues to build momentum ahead of the Diamond League final in the Commonwealth Games later this year. And now to tennis, where Wimbledon has begun with defending champion Jannik Sinner chasing a fifth Grand Slam title and women's top seed Aryna Sabalenka chasing her first major of the year. In the absence of rival and two-time Wimbledon winner Carlos Alcaraz, Sinner is the clear favourite this year, but the Italian may have to contend with the hot weather and his own lack of preparation as he seeks to defend his title after his second-round defeat at the French Open from a near-winning position when he cramped up in sizzling conditions. The 24-year-old skips the warm-ups of the tournament ahead of the grass court slam. And that's it on News Cycle. Here's a quick reminder that Global Television is on DSTV channel 365, Star Times channel 276 and Free TV. Kindly follow us across all our social media platforms now showing on your screen using at Global TV NG. I am Mukhtar Kasim. Saying a very big thank you for watching.